Hey, everybody. Welcome to the One Day Closer podcast. I am your humble host, Jay. All right, enough of that foolishness. Wow. So, hope everybody's having a great day. Off to kind of a weird start today. But it is amazing, Bob. We're about to wrap up September, going into October. And I recorded that last episode early. So it feels like I haven't done one of these in a while. And I guess it was an extra week in there. So a little recap. We'll get rolling. Actually, today we're going to do some things a little different. You know, we've been working in that 10-part series on living life to the fullest and what Scripture tells us about that. But today we're going to keep it simple. I'd like to give everybody a recap about my recent travels and a little bit about life. So with that, we'll return. The next episode will be part 5, and that's embracing forgiveness. So, part 4 was love and serve others. And we talked about the takeaways from that being love unconditionally, serving humbly and showing compassion. And I hope everybody had a chance to listen to that. If not, go back and catch that one and really the other first 3 parts. But today will be kind of like an old school episode where I just bring everybody up to date on my own personal journey. So with that, I thank you for joining me, and I do appreciate y'all, and we'll just kind of get rolling. That last episode, I mentioned that I was going to be traveling to Denver, Colorado. I would be attending the GBS Foundation International Symposium. And what an amazing, amazing time that was. Oh, excuse me, getting a little choked up. It was an amazing time. Just thinking about some of those memories as I sit here, I can't believe it's hit me that much. But like I said, just a wonderful time with some wonderful people. To meet with other patients. This family of diseases, it's demyelinating. It's very rare, right? My disease, multifocal motor neuropathy, is literally, like 0.5 per 100,000. And I'll say the flagship disease, which that doesn't seem right to say, but GBS, Guillain-Barré syndrome, that's, 1 to 2 per 100,000. And actually maybe a little higher than that. I honestly could be off on my figures there. But to meet with patients who have walked, no pun intended there, the same road, right? The same symptoms, the same trauma. And that's mental trauma, not physical trauma. I'm so thankful for that opportunity. But as you can tell, it was an emotional trip. But yeah, to meet with these other patients and share stories and just, it's very empowering. It was very educational. It was good for the soul, right? Good for the heart, good for the soul. I remember sitting at one particular table, and since I was traveling by myself, when we would have, whether it was meeting in the big ballroom for the main core classes and lectures, or, the small ones would be just chairs, but I would always try to sit at a different table and meet different people. And I consider that a blessing because I was able to meet some, people from all over the world. But this one particular day, I was sitting at the table and there was 4 other people there, and I was eating breakfast. They, provided us food, and having a little trouble with the tremors that morning, and my grip. And normally, I'll be honest, I don't talk about this much, but I'm very self-conscious, and I don't know I shouldn't be. Whether it's the foot drop in the right leg, or the tremors and the cramps and the convulsions and the spasms and the arms and legs. And so I do my best to hide it, and I would like to think most people don't notice. But all that to say, I'm at this table. The Tremors were kinda kicking into overdrive that morning, and I remember making the comment that it was so good to be able to sit at a table and not have to hide my symptoms because everybody at that table could understand. They could understand that what I was going through, whereas, regular people may look and I don't know, maybe I'm so self-conscious, but, people would look at that and, wonder what's up. But to be able to just be myself, not have to try to hide my illness in any way, not to have to try to look normal when sadly I'm physically far from it. It was special. And so the whole symposium, right, the whole convention was like that. And just like I said, met so many wonderful people. I was finally able to meet a lot of the staff at the GBS Foundation that I've talked with on the phone. They've helped me navigate everything from ways to help out to ways to help deal with insurance and Medicare, which I could do 10 episodes on that. I've talked recently about some of my insurance problems, and the foundation has helped me navigate through some of that. And, the other big thing was just learning more about my disease. And I mean, not just mine, but like I said, the whole family, right? The demyelinating diseases. And one thing this symposium did is it brought physicians, researchers from all over the world to come speak to us. And I learned more about my disease, not just, what we kind of see on the surface or deal with on the surface, but have it broken down literally to like some molecular level and what's going on. And I thought I knew, and I obviously have had some information provided by my own physician, but wow, to just to take that deep dive. And then the other cool thing was, you could talk with these doctors, you could ask them questions in sessions, but they were also just roaming the hallways, and you could have that conversation and learn and educate. And that opportunity, like I said, I'm so grateful to the GBS CIDP Foundation International for putting that together. The next one will be in Boston in 2 years, and I'm already excited. Boston's one of my favorite cities to visit. I've been blessed to go there once for a week, and I'm absolutely looking forward to it already. It's a shame we got to wait for 2 years, but it will happen, and I'm looking forward to that. One thing I'll share, hey, and I'll try not to break down like a babbling fool here, but I learned something interesting. I learned a couple of things interesting, but the first thing was being at a rare disease convention. I learned I have a rare disease at the rare disease convention. And then on top of that, already being the rare disease guy at the rare disease convention, I have an even rarer case of that rare disease. I've joked about it in the past. Man, it's like hitting a disease lottery. Woohoo. But that is the hand we've been dealt, and that is the hand we make the most of, right? Can't dwell on the past, and we move forward. But that was something else we learned at that. So thank you. If you're listening and you were there and we had the chance to meet, thank you so much. Jody, I'll give a special shout out. It's a very nice lady I met. And I'm actually going to go off on a little rabbit trail here, but I will say this. My own beliefs is God puts people in our lives. There's no coincidence. And that person you may cross paths with just for a few moments, but we never know the impact we have. And I spoke with a nice lady. She was with one of the sponsors and the infusion company that I use, which is Solio Health. and we got to talking, and I won't go into too much detail because there was a personal conversation, but just know that that conversation with her was a blessing for me, but also she made me aware that she needed to hear my testimony, and that's basically what it was. I shared my testimony with her. Like I said, I'm not gonna get into what she shared with me because that's private and that's up to her. But know that I have no doubt that God placed me in that conversation, and I think He does that. And I will say I believe He does that with us, and that's happened more times in my life, even before this illness, but definitely after this illness. And, I was kinda beating myself getting back to the convention that I felt I wasn't sharing my testimony enough. I was talking about the illness, but not talking about the greatness of God and the miracle that I've been given. Because trust me, I met some people there that wasn't near as sick as me, and their recovery is not near where I'm at. And for that, I know the reason for that. And I was down on myself because I be honest, I don't think I was sharing that enough. I'm not quite sure what I expected out of that. But then lo and behold, on that last day, to meet with somebody and be able to share my testimony and have it impact their life. Then for them to turn around and tell me that's exactly, what they needed to hear, that they were questioning, their self and their faith through some hard times. And for that, I thank God for that opportunity. When I pray at night, amongst everything else, I pray for the people that need to hear my testimony, and I pray for the words to say. And like I said, and God knows who needs to hear those words, and where I felt I was coming up short, He reminded me I was doing exactly what He wanted me to do. So it was a special time with some special people. And like I said, I apologize for getting emotional. I It's amazing. It's amazing. So, but it gives you an idea how special that was. And I'm looking at the clock. Wow, we took up way more time with that than I planned. When I do my little outlines. But I'm glad I could share that. So, what did we do after Denver? Did we go home? Oh, no, 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 no. Very blessed to fly to Bend, Oregon, and meet up with my brother Sean, who y'all have heard on past episodes, and my aunt and uncle, who have recently moved there. And I had the opportunity to do 6 days in Oregon. I started in Bend and went on a road trip. Sean rented a car, and we took off through the Cascade Mountains and headed for the coast. Went to the mouth of the Columbia River in Astoria, Oregon, crossed over, went to Long Beach, Washington. This is when I got to point out that my brother Sean got our rental car stuck in the sand. It was a truck, though. I'll give him that. He thought we would do better. You can drive on the beaches there. We didn't get 100 feet off the off the hard stuff and sunk that thing like a rock. But the more uplifting part, besides for the fact of how much fun I will get ribbing my brother on that for the rest of his life, is that the local people there in South Washington, were so, so helpful, so generous with their time. And ultimately, we had placed a call, to a tow company to come get us out. And I bet it wasn't 5 minutes later, a gentleman walked past, and him and his wife were taking a walk on the beach. And he's like, "Hey, I've got a truck and a chain. I can pull y'all out." And he did, and then refused to accept one penny that we offered him for his time. And that is what I like to think about. So many episodes I talk about just being kind. You never know what people are going through. And that act of kindness to us, trust me, I'll never forget that. And to that man, he may never give it a second thought, right? Except probably laugh about those two Southern boys getting their truck stuck on the beach in Washington. From there, We went back to Astoria, though, and hung out a little bit. Beautiful little city. Like I said, this is at the mouth of the Columbia River, so just on the Oregon side. And that is where I accomplished something, check off another thing that I thought I would never be able to do. And they have a tower, and I don't know the name of it, but if you can think of kind of how a lighthouse is, right, with the spiral staircase, if you visited any lighthouses in our country or abroad. So it's a tower. It was about 160 feet high, and then it's already on top of the highest point in this little coastal town. And my brother Sean wanted to go up and take a look, right, because there's amazing views from up there. And I said, I want to do this. I want to do this part. And not knowing if I could or not, in my heart, I knew I could, but the reality is the reality. I have so many issues when it comes to climbing steps, much less spiral ones. So we climbed, and I would climb, and I think a deck was like about every 25 steps. Sometimes it was a little closer. And we would climb, and we would get to that deck, and we'd stop, rest. My brother would be standing right there with me, and climb, and rest, and climb, and rest. Eventually making it to the top. And how wonderful, what a wonderful, glorious view. But that view is extra special to me, considering, just add that to the list of things I never thought I'd be able to do again. Because I always used to love in my travels hitting lighthouses. Hit a few over the years for sure. And I just didn't think that would ever be possible again. But it was, and it was beautiful. The climb down actually was worse, but we made it safely. Not from lack of giving myself a few little heart attacks on the way down. I just don't have the stability. The hips are just not that strong. And I paid for it the next day, with leg cramps and the fasciculations, right, the spasms and all. And I knew it. I know when I do something physical that there's going to be a price to pay. But it was worth it. I would do it again. I'm so thankful for that opportunity to be able to do that. From there, we were staying in a little area called Seaside, which is, as far as the North Oregon coast goes, I would say is the tourist trap kind of place, but it's beautiful. We had a place right on the beach. And the beaches there are gigantic. I mean, from the boardwalk to the water's edge, I swear it seemed like it was, a third of a mile, if not more. Glorious, glorious sunset to take in. And I took a few pictures. I didn't take a lot. One thing in my old age, and I don't know if it's just because I have a different appreciation for things now, but I actually try to live in the moment. Instead of taking a picture at that sunset, which I did, but not a million. It was just sitting there looking at it, taking in God's wonderful creation, and just breathe and live, experience it. I'll be honest, the pictures, they don't do it justice, how beautiful it was on the coast. The next morning, we woke up and we drove a little further south. We hit Cannon Beach, Haystack Rock, which is a famous rock formation that's in a lot of movies. Tillamook, Oregon, which if you're a fan of the cheese, we hit the cheese factory. And who would have guessed that was so popular in the middle of nowhere in the northern Oregon coast there? But it was. We went to Three Arches State Park, and there I saw the smallest lighthouse I think I've ever seen in my life. While we're talking about lighthouses, it was literally only 2 stories, right? It was the ground floor, and then you just went up 10 feet, 12 feet, whatever it was. But it was on a mountainside, so that's where I got its height from. And from there, the cool part was we started heading inland and went to, and I'm going to say this correctly, Willamette Valley, the wine valley, or the winemaking region. For years I used to say Willamette because I'll be honest, there was a time not terribly long ago in my existence that I would partake in a little Pinot Noir wine, right? Red wine. In this region, I always enjoyed the product from that area. I found out while we were out there that I had been pronouncing that wrong for all of these years. So it's not Willamette, it's Willamette Valley. Again, the people were wonderful. The opportunity to go up in the hillsides, sit at these wineries and just partake in the beauty of nature, sip on some wonderful, wonderful products from these vineyards. It was very relaxing, very memorable. Again, not a lot of pictures. I just tried to soak it in and live the experience. I mean, what a road trip that was. And of course, after that, we returned back to Bend, to my aunt and uncle's house, and was able to do a little bit more around there. Farmers market the morning before we flew out on Saturday, and some wonderful restaurants. It's just a beautiful, beautiful town. I know sometimes we'll hear about all the craziness in Oregon, and I'll be honest, we purposely stayed away from Portland. We made sure we bypassed that. But don't let stereotypes, create a prejudice. The people I met in the rest of Oregon were wonderful, wonderful people, very giving, very generous, very, very helpful. And it was good. It was such a pleasant thing to be reminded, that's what life's about. We're all in this together. So something else I was proud of is I did a little bit of hiking, with the emphasis on little. My Uncle Mickey had some, I guess you call them walking sticks or the hiking sticks, that he was able to lend me. And we cut through, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm going to draw a blank on it. There's a state park, it's in the Cascades, and they have 10 waterfalls. Of course, I couldn't hike to pretty much all of those, but there was one that it was just a little quarter-mile hike. The elevation was nice. It was kind of interesting, but those hiking poles made it possible. And I was able to get down to the falls, and it's beautiful as a cave where you can even go in behind the falls. And again, man, I'm so thankful to have that opportunity to do something like that. When you're laid up in a hospital bed paralyzed, or even the years following when you're in your wheelchair to get around, things like that just seem impossible. But I'm here to tell you there is no impossible, right? Our God specializes in impossible. It might be impossible to us, mere mortal, but we serve the God of impossibles, and He proved it again and again to me on this trip in so many ways. And for that, I am so thankful. So I hope everybody has enjoyed the episode. I'm glad to kind of catch y'all up. I know, like I said, we kind of interrupted the special series I was doing, and we will be right back next episode. Again, that'll be embracing forgiveness, and I look forward to sharing that. Just remember, always, always have faith. Something I was going to go into a bunch about, but I'll hit the highlights. So lately, personally, I've been struggling with several things. Not struggling with faith, but really struggling with my end of trying to live a better life, right? The life that as Christians, we are called to live. I mean, obviously we all come up short and we all sin. But I just feel that I could do more, I could be more. And I've been struggling with that, but He's carried me through it. Been a lot of personal battles. Again, we'll talk about it a future date, but just know He never leaves our side. He has proven through this that He is not leaving my side now, didn't in the past, and He won't in the future. So I have a grateful heart, thankful heart. I want to say how much I appreciate y'all. Sorry if I rambled too much today, but that's just something I wanted to share with this wonderful thing that's happened to me recently. So we'll wrap it up. And you know what that means. I'm going to tell you. Always, always, always have faith in Jesus. He will be your burden bearer. Let him carry the load that's too heavy for you to carry. He's doing it for me again right now. He'll do it for you, I promise. And remember, live your spirit.